Welcome everyone back to weekly weather updates, and this evening we'll have a look at the latest from the GFS, the GEM, the ECMWF, the UKMO Office, the ECMWF Ensembles, GFS Ensembles, and we'll finish up with the UKMO Office precipitation and temperature. We now definitely do look like we're going towards a cold end to November. The last 10 days does look like it's going to be pretty chilly indeed. Could even be historically cold, considering we haven't really had anything remotely cold towards the end of November for many, many years. But it does look like we will be seeing something cold for all, and for many it is likely to be wintry as well, with some snow. So do remember, if you enjoy my videos, make sure you like and subscribe, and remember to follow on Twitter as well, the link's in the description. So we do run through the latest GFS. We'll see how this GFS run is going brutally cold. Now, at this stage, we're only confident around day 7 to day 10, where we're starting to see this cold spell come into the time frame. Beyond that, GFS is still showing some very cold patterns into the start of November, or end of November, sorry, and start of December, and it could come off, and we'll see what is happening in this run. So if we do have a look at it, you can see at the moment we do have westerly winds. We have a reasonably cold air mass across Scotland, so we are seeing a few wintry showers around at the moment. For the majority, though, it's relatively mild and south, dry, some drizzly, and some thicker cloud around as well. We're going to maintain this westerly sort of theme, but it's this high pressure over the top of the UK which is really important. You can start to see this divide happening within the tropospheric polar vortex, with blues towards northern Canada and blues towards Scandinavia. This is vitally important. We see this high pressure push northwards towards Greenland. As it happens towards the weekend, we do see initially it fails, but we still pull down a colder air mass towards the weekend. And we've been looking at this sort of northerly wind for the last sort of 5 days or so, and it's been pretty consistent within the model output. Could be seeing some colder temperatures towards Sunday, Monday and Tuesday, overnight frosts, and of course a few wintry showers in the north and the east. But the big sort of cold is still waiting to our north, and you can see the high pressure retrogressing and having another go at building up towards Greenland, and you can see us going into a truly northerly blast. Now, not only is this colder air coming down, but it's very unstable as well. Now, I want to show what is going to be happening on this latest GFS run. If we do go into the United Kingdom look, you can see a brutally cold air mass getting down to -8, -9, if not -10 at 850 HPA, and traditionally we'd say -10 or below would give temperatures below freezing day or night. However, you can see small low pressure systems are developing within this unstable cold flow. Now, this is likely to bring heavy snowfall to a few locations, and this is in just over a week's time, Friday the 26th of November. Now, it's not guaranteed to happen like this. We wouldn't really be able to forecast these lows particularly accurately more than sort of 3 to 5 days out, but we're seeing this consistent with the potential for a low to develop within the outer edges of the main low, which is over towards Scandinavia. And if we do have a look at the 850 HPA temperature, you can see brutally cold air to its north and east, milder air to the south, getting down to around 0 degrees or -1, -2. Now, as this does move through, you can see that cold air stays on its northern edge. There, we could be seeing a lot of heavy snowfall, right on that boundary between the snow and the rain. That's where we're going to be seeing the heaviest snowfall. Now, it could all fall as snow, but where we have this milder undercut in the far south, we could be seeing it turn more into sleety, rainy sort of mess. But it's not guaranteed to happen like this. It could be shifted southwards, it could not happen at all, or it could be a much larger system. So just showing you the hints that there could be some major snowfall either within the next 7 or 10 days. We really need to keep an eye on it as it comes into shorter term. But if we go out to the bigger scale, you can see generally very unstable air mass with these localized low pressure systems. And just for hints, if we look at total snow depth and we do run that through, you can see across the swathe across northern Wales all the way down to the London area, 10 to 20 centimetres potentially, which is a lot of snow. I haven't seen that sort of levels of snowfall for a few years. You could argue a few areas have seen it locally over the last few years, but we haven't seen that particularly widespread since maybe the Beast from the East in 2018, especially in sort of England and Wales. So very interesting seeing that. If we go back out to the European outlook, you can see again, very unstable. So whatever happens with these localised lows to the south and the west of this mother low out towards Scandinavia, it's going to be unstable, so there's going to be a lot of convection and snow showers around. And beyond that, you can see more little low pressure systems move through. You can see the high pressure does eventually break down a little bit, but it sort of rebuilds and sends us another blast of cold air. However, milder air does get wrapped in, but then we get another messy sort of scenario. If we did see this milder sort of undercut, we could still be seeing winteriness around, and it would be a very complicated, very marginal scenario. This could be a scenario where we see ice rain, freezing rain, or we can see some very marginal conditions. So very interesting sort of conditions could be coming up with this sort of scenario. And again, we go colder right towards the end before eventually things looking a little bit milder right towards the end of the run. So a very interesting GM run there. Very cold, one of the coldest runs I've seen for the end of November, and it does look likely that at least the first 7 days of it is looking quite likely to come off with that initial northerly wind we're going to see this coming weekend, and then beyond that in about 7 days time we have another northerly wind with much colder air moving through it, and that does look like it's very likely to be happening now. So if we do have a look at the GMs, here it does compare. Now we can only have a look at the midnight run, as the midday run hasn't fully come out, but you can see we do have again that high pressure ridging northwards, seeing that initial cold northerly wind, before we see retrogression, high pressure building up towards Greenland. Now, we do see a bit more of a northwesterly flow within this GM run. Still going quite cold, but it could have a bit more of a milder undercut initially, which may limit any winteriness for a couple of days. But you can see right towards the end of the run, the whole of the UK is about to go into a very brutally cold northerly spell at day 10. So you can see GM is probably a milder run in terms of having that milder undercut, but even a milder GEM run is still showing very cold conditions where we would still see freezing temperatures in many areas and some winteriness as well. Now, if we also have a look at the ECMWF, which is widely regarded as probably the top model other than the UK Met Office run, which we'll have a look at in a minute, but we don't have as much data for. So if we have a look at the ECMWF, you can see again, very similar over the next few days in terms of westerly winds. So that initial northerly wind turning into a bit of an easterly with some colder air, before we see retrogression and an absolute northerly blast. Follow those isobars all the way back to Svalbard and the North Pole. Bitterly cold air mass, 850 HPA deviation getting down to -4, -6, -8 degrees compared to average, and you can see a pocket of purple there, which is -10 lower than average. And you can see again, very cold conditions widely, and we are on the cusp of milder air out in the middle of the Atlantic, but the blocking is holding up sufficiently that we are staying in that colder airflow for a good few days at least. And you would expect with this high pressure sticking there and blocking off these Atlantic systems, we'd stay in that colder air and see potentially more sort of northerly winds move in as well, similar to what we saw on the GFS. Now, one thing that we've really wanted to be seeing, which is why it does look like this cold spell is pretty much guaranteed to come off now in terms of at least a few days of very cold conditions, is getting the UK Met Office run on board, simply because it only runs out to day 7 on its pressure charts, so we can't look in the longer term with it. So really anything that does come up on it in the shorter term is quite likely to happen, and we haven't seen it come into the short time frame yet, or a 7-day time frame of this northerly blast, but it is today. And as we do run through, you can see very similar over the next few days with that high pressure out in the Atlantic bringing a brief northerly wind, and then as we head towards day 7, you see the high pressure builds up towards Scandinavia, getting really quite high up towards Greenland, and we are opening the floodgates to the Arctic bitterly cold air. You can see the isobars wobbling, showing a very unstable flow, a lot of convection. You can see a really quite cold air mass is spreading across the UK in a week's time, starting from Scotland and spreading all the way down to England. It would be one of these scenarios where daytime temperatures in maybe England are sort of like 10 degrees. By midnight, we're below freezing with a big temperature drop. And it'll be very, very interesting to see what happens with that. But yeah, it does look very likely now we're going to be seeing this northerly blast. For all those winter lovers out there who love the snow, it is looking like we will be seeing some winteriness for potentially quite a few towards the end of this month. Now, if we have a look at the GFS Ensembles, now they haven't fully updated yet, but you can see that out to the 29th of November, only out to 12, 13 days. So it's only got another couple of days to updates. But you can see, generally, temperatures are mild for the next sort of 3 or 4 days, dropping to around -5, though, when we get that initial cold northerly wind moving in, rising up a little bit briefly as the high pressure rebuilds further north towards Greenland, and then we see it drop away once again below -5, which is generally the threshold for snow. I may be doing a video out in the next sort of few days looking at what we need for snow, as it could be very useful over the next few weeks, as there will be some marginal events, especially in the south, because remember, it is end of November. The cold extent to our north is nowhere near what it would be towards the end of January or February, March. So there will be some marginal events within this, but it does look like we will be seeing the potential for snow quite widely, which is very unusual for the end of November. You can see beyond that, the majority stay around -5 or even lower than that. A few go much milder, but you can see most stay quite cold. Some precipitation around, so indications of the potential for snow. And if we do have a look at the snow image, can see now snow spikes starting to appear, and you'd expect as that gets into the shorter time frame, within sort of 3, 4, 5 days, would expect that sort of increase as the ensembles start to pick up the convection that will be going on within the unstable air mass. Another thing we can look at is the dew point, which you can see is down to freezing or below freezing from this weekend for the foreseeable future, which means overnight frosts, and anything falling out of the sky has the potential to be snow. Not guaranteed, because of course we could have warmer air on the surface, but up in the upper levels of the atmosphere with a dew point below freezing, it does mean it's highly likely that a lot of the precipitation falling out of the sky will initially be of a wintry nature. Whether it melts towards the ground, that we'll have to look at that nearer the time. But with very low dew point, shows you very cold air mass. And last thing to look at for London is have a look at the 2 metre temperature and precipitation, and you can see right towards the last 5 days of November, you can see now average max temperature within the ensembles is only 3 or 4 degrees, and I expect that to lower as we sort of knock out some of these milder ensemble members that are still appearing. But again, we have got some very cold ensemble members if we do get that brutally cold air mass. You can see the operational run, which is higher resolution, so should be able to forecast these temperatures a little bit better. You can see only 1 or 2 degrees in the day, -1 or lower at night. And of course, if we did have snow falling, it would likely bring those temperatures down a little bit more as well. If we have a look at Glasgow, you can see now temperatures look to be plummeting towards this weekend, down to maybe 4 or 5 degrees, and staying like that, if not lower, as that northerly wind comes in for the last week of November. If you look at dew points, again, widely below freezing. Again, a lot of the precipitation falling out of the sky will be of a wintry nature, at least initially. Have a look at snow spikes. You can see quite a few coming into the last week of November now, and expect those to increase in frequency. And last, we'll have a look at the 850 HPA temperature and precipitation, and you can see right towards the 24th to 25th of November, really towards sort of the confidence sort of time frame we have now, which is sort of 7 or 8 days. You can see when that northerly wind initially comes through, temperatures in Scotland could be getting down to -10 at 850 HPA, and quite a few of the ensemble members are doing that, which is a brutally cold air mass, especially for November. We'd be lucky on a normal year to get that through more than a few times in sort of January or February, but to be seeing it in the last week of November is truly exceptional. I haven't seen this we haven't seen this for many years. Beyond that, does return a little bit milder, but then again, that's off-put by some milder outliers. And of course, as I said, it's the end of November, so we're not going to be able to sustain minus 10 at 850 HPA. It's more likely to drop to around minus 5, which sustained is still cold enough. Now, if we have a look at the ECMWF Ensembles, we'll quickly go through this so the video doesn't get too long. But if we run out to day 7, which is sort of the confidence, sort of the confident level we do have. Day 7 looks pretty bang on now with this northerly spell, and you can see the majority now have high pressure out in the Mid Atlantic, and most have a northerly wind plunging in. The only exceptions from the ones not going for the control and operational run, which around 50% of the ensembles are going for, is just slightly having that high pressure holding on along the UK a little bit more. So just maybe 12 or 24 hours behind in terms of time scale. Day 10, you can see the majority going brutally cold with north to northeasterly winds. The only problem we could see in some of these ensembles, which doesn't look like it's come to fruition within the majority of the ensembles, or even any of the operational runs, we did see hints maybe a few days ago, is of a milder undercut if we did see the high pressure move a bit far to the north, and then we start to see the jet stream push in from the south and come up from Spain, colliding with that cold air. If we end up on that milder side, we could be turning a little bit milder in the south, but we're not seeing that. We were seeing a few days ago within some of the ensemble members, but really not seeing that now. Most look brutally cold. 300 hours, again, majority within mid-Atlantic ridge, northerly winds, within the blues, cold air mass, widespread unsettled conditions, and snow. Beyond that, towards 260 hours, still looking very, very cold. Likely we could be starting to see a little bit of a milder westerly wind come over that high pressure, as it's unlikely for the high pressure to maintain its strength over Greenland for more than a week. It could happen, but it's unlikely, and if we are going into quite a historic cold spell, which is possible, is likely to break down and rebuild. It's very unlikely to hang on like that for more than sort of a week or so. So we are seeing hints 33% with that high pressure sinking southwards a bit, which would bring milder temperatures generally, but still at the surface with high pressure, we would still be seeing quite cold conditions. But others are still going very, very cold and unsettled, and very snowy, wintry as well. Very interesting seeing what's happening over the last few weeks, or the last few days, and generally watching these models for the last sort of week or two, or few weeks. So we have been seeing these hints for quite a while, and if you have a look at my winter look aheads, I did always say end of November, early December, we had an above average chance of seeing something cold, and it looks really pretty much bang on that we are going to be seeing something very similar to that. Now, if you finally have a look at the UKMO Office run, have a look at the next 5 days, we are now able to start to see that first initial northerly wind move in towards this weekend, which is going to be very interesting to watch. You can see generally at the moment a few showers around, but nothing too major. More persistent rain potentially overnight tonight, but again, nothing too crazy. Beyond that, generally things are quite cloudy, but miserable as well. And again, a few showers in the north. And then by Saturday, you see this weather front heading southwards. Could bring some heavier rain at times, but again, quite patches ahead southwards. But that is unleashing colder Arctic air, that initial northerly wind. On Sunday, you can see snow showers across Scotland. Quite heavy snow showers. And I'm very pleased that it does look like the Weather Outlook have updated their snow colours, so you can see they're a little bit better now, darker pinks and purples. And you can see by sort of early hours of Monday, things are looking much clearer with the colder northerly air mass, and you couldn't rule out a few of these showers along the east coast being a little bit wintry. If we do have a look at the max temperatures, you can see tonight was, or early this morning, was pretty chilly, but you can see this afternoon 9-10 degrees, so nothing massively cold. By Thursday, temperatures may be recovering around 11-12 degrees once again, but the big drop-off will be this weekend, as we see in a minute. By Friday, maybe 12-13 degrees in the south, still 9-10-11 degrees in Scotland. However, by Saturday, you can see that colder air approaching. Only 4-5-6 degrees in Scotland, 10-11 in the south. And by early hours of Sunday, below freezing in Scotland, getting quite cold in northern England, still 7 or 8 in the south. By Sunday afternoon, only 6 or 7 degrees in southern England, and freezing, if not below that, in Scotland. And all the way to early hours of Monday, could be seeing 2, 3, 4 degrees in the south of England, just as that cold air mass does sweep over, and you can see widespread frost below freezing across most of northern England, parts of Northern Ireland, and pretty much all of mainland Scotland as well. So you can see that colder air mass this weekend is coming, and it does look like it's going to be seeing some significant reinforcements next week, as we could be going into a proper cold spell for the end of November. Very, very interesting to see what is happening with this, as we could be heading into potentially a historic spell, simply because of how early this is happening in the winter, compared to what we normally see with a lot of westerly winds this time of year. Very interesting to see what's going on at the moment. So do make sure you stay up to date with my videos, the UKMS office warnings as well, and their forecasts, as I do suspect they will be issuing multiple yellow warnings over the next few weeks, whether it's for snow or whether it's for ice, fog, we'll have to see. And with what it's looking like with that unstable sort of low pressure flow in from the north in perhaps potentially a week to 10 days time, you couldn't rule out an amber warning potentially as well if we do see some more heavier snowfall. Do stay tuned for that. So anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you again for another video soon.